The room was silent, too silent for something so important. Long glass walls surrounded the chamber, showing the stars far beyond. Earth's leaders sat around a wide table, dressed in formal suits, their faces tight with worry. Across from them sat the alien delegation, tall figures with silver skin and glowing eyes. They did not blink. They did not breathe as humans did. Everyone waited for the first word. Negotiations had taken months, maybe even years, and now everything rested on this meeting. A fragile peace was in the balance. President Hale leaned forward, his voice calm but steady. We can coexist. We only ask for respect, trade, knowledge, and peace. His words carried weight, but he knew the aliens listened with cold calculation. The leader of the alien side, called Veyer, tilted his head slightly. His voice was smooth, but it carried a strange echo. Humanity asks much. But what does humanity offer? We have seen your wars. We have seen your hunger for power. Why should the Union trust you? The humans exchanged nervous looks. They had prepared arguments, promises, and endless documents. Still, every word felt weak against the cold logic of the aliens. Behind the scenes, in hidden chambers deep below Earth, others waited as well. Soldiers, scientists, and engineers had worked in secret for decades, creating weapons and machines that the world had never seen. Humanity had always shown weakness on the surface, but in the shadows, it had prepared. But that secret could not come out yet. Not here. Not unless peace was broken. For nearly an hour, the talks went on. Words of caution, offers of trade, warnings of consequences. The aliens wanted Earth's oceans, its minerals, its resources. They spoke as if humans were simply tenants living on land they did not own. The humans wanted survival, dignity, and freedom. Finally, Veyer leaned back in his chair, his silver fingers tapping once on the table. Negotiations are finished, he said, his tone sharp as glass. The Union will take what it needs. Humanity may live if it obeys. Resist, and you will be erased. The room turned cold. The human leaders froze. For a moment, no one breathed. Then President Hale stood. His face had gone pale, but his voice carried steel. You think we are weak, he said slowly. You think we will kneel. But humanity has a history. We bend, but we do not break. The alien leader rose as well, taller than any man. His glowing eyes fixed on Hale. Then you choose destruction. Before the humans could reply, the chamber shook. Lights flickered. Somewhere deep in the station, alarms screamed. Red lights flashed across the glass walls as ships outside moved into formation. Alien warships, massive and cold, surrounded the human station. The trap had been sprung. The aliens had never wanted peace. This meeting was only a stage for surrender. Gasps filled the room. Some of the human officials panicked, shouting, demanding answers. Guards reached for weapons, but the aliens were already moving. Veyer raised one hand, and energy rippled through the chamber. 2 guards fell instantly, their bodies crumpling like paper. But President Hale did not fall. He stood firm, his eyes blazing. He turned to his people and gave a single command. Code Black. In that moment, the walls of silence cracked. Across Earth and its colonies, hidden signals activated. Bases long thought abandoned lit up. Satellites that seemed dead came alive. Doors deep underground opened, revealing machines that had never been seen before. The aliens had expected fear. They had expected surrender. Instead, they saw something else. Humanity had hidden its strength, and now the mask was falling. The alien leader paused, his expression unreadable. For the first time, there was hesitation in his glowing eyes. One of the younger aliens whispered. They were not supposed to be ready. But humanity was ready. Not with words, but with fire. Outside the glass chamber, Earth's hidden fleet emerged from the shadow of the moon. Sleek ships, black as night, unfolded their wings. They carried weapons built in secret, weapons designed not just to defend, but to destroy. The void of space began to fill with light as engines roared to life. President Hale looked straight at Veyer. You want obedience. You want control. But you will see the truth. Humanity does not surrender. The aliens hissed in anger, their silver forms glowing brighter. The chamber filled with tension, like a storm before lightning strikes. And then, the first shot was fired. A blast of pure energy streaked across space, shattering the silence of the stars. One of the alien warships exploded into flame. The negotiations were over. The war had begun. But for the first time, it was not the humans who were afraid. The aliens had come expecting prey. Instead, they had awakened predators. And so the secret history of humanity began to reveal itself. The universe would soon learn that humans, fragile as they seemed, were far more dangerous than anyone had ever believed. The stars lit up with fire. The first alien warship burst apart, scattering fragments across the void. For the humans in the chamber, it felt unreal. Just moments ago, they had been seated at a table, speaking of peace. Now, outside, a battle had begun that would decide everything. Veyer's silver eyes flared with rage. His voice shook the chamber like thunder. You dare strike the Union? President Hale stood his ground, though the floor trembled beneath him. You came to enslave us. You thought we would be silent. But we are not your servants. Not today. Not ever. The alien delegation moved with sudden speed. Guards of glowing armor rushed forward, weapons forming in their hands like liquid metal. Human security forces opened fire, but energy shields flared around the aliens, blocking the bullets. Chaos erupted inside the chamber. Some officials screamed and hid beneath the table, others tried to run, but the doors had locked tight. Red alarms flashed brighter, painting everyone in a bloody light. And then it happened. The ceiling panels shifted, and hidden compartments opened. Small drones, black and fast, dropped down like rain. They were human-built, secret machines made for this very day. The drones unleashed a storm of plasma bolts, their fire cutting through the alien guards. For the first time, the aliens faltered. Veyer roared, striking one drone with a wave of energy that shattered it into dust. But more came, dozens, then hundreds. The chamber turned into a battlefield, smoke and sparks filling the air. Outside the station, the war spread wider. The human fleet moved in perfect formation, ships that had never before been seen by the galaxy. They were not elegant like the alien vessels, but sharp, brutal, built for survival. Armor layered thick, weapons humming with power. Alien warships answered, unleashing beams of light that cut through space like blades. One human cruiser took a direct hit, breaking apart in silence, its pieces scattering into the dark. But before it died, it fired back, and its last shot tore straight through an alien ship's core. Both ships burned, both ships gone, and the war raged on. In the chamber, Hale shouted to his people, "Hold the line! Buy time!" He knew what was happening. This was not only about survival, it was about revealing the truth. Humanity had hidden its weapons for decades, waiting, preparing. The aliens believed Earth was weak, but the moment of revelation had come. Behind the station, from the shadow of Earth itself, something vast began to move. Not a ship, but a weapon. A satellite the size of a city unfolded its arms, panels glowing with power. It had been disguised as a harmless observatory, but now its true form appeared. The Eye of Dawn, humanity's secret orbital cannon, aimed into the void. Its first shot screamed across the darkness, brighter than lightning, and an alien dreadnought split in two. Shockwaves rippled through the battlefield. The Union ships shifted, their formations breaking, their confidence shaken. Back inside, Veyer hissed, his voice dripping venom. "We gave you a chance. You will regret this defiance." Hale's eyes did not waver. "No. You will regret underestimating us." The alien leader raised his hand, energy pulsing around him like a storm. But before he could strike, one of the drones slammed into him, exploding in a flash. The blast threw Veyer across the chamber, his silver skin cracked, glowing with strange light. Gasps filled the room. The alien leader struggled to rise, his glowing eyes dimming. For the first time, humanity saw that he could bleed. On the battlefield outside, human ships pressed forward. They fought fiercely, but losses were heavy. One by one, alien vessels fell, but for every ship destroyed, another appeared. The Union had power beyond imagining, and the fight was only beginning. Inside the chamber, smoke thickened. The floor was littered with broken machines and fallen bodies. President Hale looked at his people, at the terrified faces of diplomats and soldiers. He raised his voice above the chaos. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Humanity has hidden long enough. Today we rise. Today we fight. The words cut through the fear. Even in the fire and blood, the humans stood taller. Their eyes burned with the same light as their leader's voice. The aliens had thought humans were prey. But now, they saw hunters. Outside, the battle spread across the stars. The Union had numbers, power, and technology. But humanity had something else. Something the galaxy had never faced before. They had defiance. They had will. And they had secrets still hidden, waiting for the right moment. The war had only just begun. The battlefield was a storm of fire and shadows. Human ships moved like wolves in the dark, their black armor reflecting no light. Alien vessels glowed bright, cold, and terrible, each one a moving fortress. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as weapons burned across the void. On Earth, far below the battle, something stirred. Across the planet, hidden bunkers opened, long kept secret even from most of humanity. In deserts, mountains, and beneath the oceans, doors of steel slid open, and machines of war awoke. Some were aircraft, shaped like predators. Others were walking giants, armored titans that shook the ground as they moved. The aliens thought humanity only had primitive weapons, old fleets, and weak armies. But now, the truth unfolded. Humanity had been preparing for decades, maybe centuries, in silence. President Hale stood in the smoke-filled chamber of the station, his voice sharp and steady. Bring the reserves online. All of them. From deep space, signals moved faster than thought, awakening the hidden arsenal. The Union fleet began to regroup, its commanders confused by the sudden resistance. They had never seen humans fight like this. They had never seen humans fight at all. In the eyes of the Union, Earth had been a minor world, a young race, untested and weak. But now, something was wrong. The first wave of hidden technology struck. From the oceans of Earth, massive submarines rose. But these were not ordinary machines, they were hybrids of warship and beast, each one carrying weapons designed to pierce even alien shields. As they broke the surface, their cannons unleashed blue fire into the sky, striking Union craft that had dared to enter the atmosphere. In orbit, satellites disguised as debris came alive. They fired lances of energy, cutting through alien shields, something no other race had managed before. The Union fleet staggered, ships breaking apart under fire they had never expected. The galaxy had always seen humanity as fragile. Too young. Too reckless. Too divided. But humanity had learned from its own history. Every war, every mistake, every loss, they had turned it all into preparation. Back in the chamber, Veyer rose to his feet. His silver skin was cracked, glowing light leaking through the wounds. His voice hissed with fury. This is not possible. No primitive race can create such weapons. Hale stared at him, calm but unyielding. You never looked closely enough. You saw our wars and called us weak. You never understood what those wars made us. Veyer's eyes narrowed. This will only delay your destruction. The Union will send more fleets. More armies. You cannot fight forever. Hale's lips curved into the smallest of smiles. Maybe not forever. But long enough. The chamber trembled again as another shockwave rattled the station. Outside, one of humanity's secret ships entered the battle, a vessel unlike any seen before. Sleek, black, shaped like an arrowhead, it moved faster than light itself. This was the Phantom class, the pride of hidden Earth engineering. It blinked in and out of sight, phasing through enemy fire, striking from impossible angles. One by one, alien ships fell before it. Explosions painted the dark with fire. The Union commander fleets, watching from afar, began to hesitate. Reports came in, losses higher than expected, shields failing, humans using weapons no one had ever recorded. Fear spread, quiet and poisonous. Inside the chamber, one of the younger alien diplomats whispered, trembling, They were never prey. Veer silenced him with a glare. But inside, he too felt a flicker of unease. Humanity should not have been able to resist, not even for a moment. And yet, here they stood, turning the impossible into reality. On Earth's surface, civilians watched the skies burn. Fear filled their hearts, but also pride. For the first time, humanity was united, not against each other, but against a threat greater than any before. Old divisions, old hatreds, all vanished in the face of survival. Humanity's true weapon was not only its machines. It was its will to endure. As the battle raged on, the alien fleet tried to tighten its grip. More ships moved into orbit, forming a wall of fire. The Union still had numbers, still had strength. Humanity's secrets gave them an edge, but the war was far from won. President Hale knew it. He turned to his generals through the comms. Phase 2. Release the Leviathans. A silence followed. Then, deep in the oceans, something even larger stirred. Vast machines, bigger than cities, rose from the depths. Their forms broke the surface, towers of steel and thunder. Each Leviathan carried weapons that shook the air itself. When the first one fired, the sea itself split apart, and an alien cruiser fell burning into the waves. The Union fleet paused. Even Veer's cold eyes widened. The galaxy had always seen humanity as a fragile species. But now, for the first time, they understood the truth. Humanity was not fragile. Humanity was dangerous. And this was only the beginning. The station shook again, metal groaning as explosions rippled through its walls. Sparks rained from broken lights, smoke filling the chamber where the negotiations had fallen apart. The war outside was brutal, but here, in the heart of the station, the battle felt even closer. President Hale stood at the center of chaos, his voice steady even as alarms screamed around him. We cannot stay here. We need to move. The remaining human guards gathered quickly, forming a protective wall around the leaders. Some diplomats were trembling, others frozen in shock, but the soldiers pushed them forward. The air was heavy with fear. Veer, cracked and glowing, still stood on the other side of the room. His silver skin burned with energy, his eyes burning brighter. You will not leave, he hissed. His voice echoed like thunder. This chamber will be your grave. Without warning, he raised his hand, and a wave of force tore across the floor. Tables shattered, glass walls exploded, and several humans were thrown into the air like dolls. The guards opened fire again, bullets sparking uselessly against his shield. But then, from the shadows above, the drones returned. They swooped down in swarms, firing rapid bursts of plasma. Veer staggered, shielding his face from the barrage. Hale didn't waste the chance. Move, he shouted. The humans rushed out through the shattered doors, pushing into the station's smoke-filled corridors. The ground shook beneath them as the battle raged in space. Lights flickered, and the sound of distant screams echoed through the halls. General Brooks, a hardened soldier with scars across his face, took point. We need to reach the command deck, he said. If the station falls, we can at least control the evacuation. But the aliens, one diplomat stammered. Brooks cut him off sharply. If you want to live, follow orders. Talking won't save you. The group pressed on, moving quickly through the twisting corridors. Fires burned in some sections, and smoke stung their eyes. Bodies, both human and alien, lay scattered across the floors. The battle had reached everywhere. Behind them, an explosion ripped through the wall. Veyer stepped through the flames, unharmed, his silver body glowing brighter with every step. He moved like a phantom, unstoppable, his voice carrying through the smoke. You cannot run. You cannot hide. Humanity will be crushed beneath the Union. Fear gripped the humans, but Hale's voice cut through it like a blade. Keep moving. He wants us afraid. Do not give him what he wants. They ran, but the alien leader followed, his steps slow, certain, like a predator closing on prey. At one point, they reached a junction blocked by fire. The corridor beyond burned like an inferno, cutting off their path. For a moment, despair washed over the group. But General Brooks pulled a small device from his belt. Stand back. He hurled it into the flames. A second later, the device released a burst of freezing mist, smothering the fire in an instant. The path was clear again, though the air was bitter cold. The group hurried through. Above them, the walls shook as ships outside exchanged fire. The glow of explosions flashed through windows, painting the halls red and white. Humanity's fleet was still holding, but barely. Every loss screamed across the comms. Finally, they reached the lift that led to the command deck. But as the doors opened, they froze. Veyer was already there, waiting. His eyes glowed like suns. You cannot escape me, he said softly. The humans raised their weapons, but they knew it was hopeless. None of their guns could pierce his shield. Then, something unexpected happened. The station's systems flickered. Lights dimmed, and the walls vibrated with a deep hum. Veyer looked around, his eyes narrowing. From hidden panels in the walls, more drones emerged, but these were different. Larger, sharper, armored like predators. They had been buried deep inside the station, programmed to awaken only under Code Black. They swarmed Veyer with no hesitation. Plasma beams struck his shield, hammering him again and again. He roared, unleashing waves of force, but the drones kept coming, climbing onto him, tearing at his armor. Now! Brooks shouted. He pushed the group into the lift. Hale was the last to enter, his eyes never leaving Veyer. The alien leader fought like a storm, but even storms could be resisted. As the lift doors closed, Hale spoke quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. We will not kneel. Not now. Not ever. The lift carried them upward, away from the chaos below. But they all knew the battle wasn't over. The command deck would be another war zone. Outside, the fleet was bleeding. And Veyer would not fall so easily. For now, they had survived. But survival was not victory. Victory was still far away, hidden in shadows, waiting for its time. And the galaxy had not yet seen humanity's darkest, most dangerous secrets. The oceans split apart. From the depths, the leviathans rose in full strength. Towers of steel and engines the size of mountains pushed through the waves. The water boiled as their weapons charged, glowing brighter than the sun. Each machine was a fortress, built in silence, hidden from the galaxy for decades. Now, they walked into war. Alien ships hovering above Earth turned their guns downward, preparing to fire on cities. But before a single shot was released, the Leviathans raised their cannons. Bolts of blue fire tore through the sky, each blast shaking the air like thunder. Entire Union cruisers exploded before they could react, burning as they fell into the sea. From space, the human fleet watched in awe. Even the hardened soldiers, trained for battle, had never seen the Leviathans unleashed. They were more than machines. They were symbols. Symbols that Earth had not only prepared for war, but had prepared to win. In the Union fleet, panic spread. Commanders shouted across channels, demanding explanations, demanding answers. How could a young race possess such weapons? How could they hide this strength? But no answer came, only fear. Above the battlefield, the Phantom-class ships continued their deadly dance. They blinked in and out of sight, striking from impossible angles, piercing shields that should have been unbreakable. Every flash of light was another alien vessel falling apart. But the Union was vast. For every ship destroyed, more arrived. For every fleet burned, Another entered orbit. The Leviathans destroyed dozens, but hundreds more filled the skies. The battle was turning into a storm too great even for humanity's hidden power. On the Union command vessel, alien generals argued in cold voices. "This is not natural," one said. "They are not capable of such creation." Another hissed, "Then someone gave it to them. Another race. A hidden ally." But Veyer's voice cut through the noise, carried across the comms like fire. "No. This is humanity's doing. They hide their claws until the last moment. They bleed themselves, they break themselves, and yet they rise. That is what makes them dangerous." For the first time, the Union generals were silent. Down on Earth, civilians filled the streets, watching the sky burn with fire and light. Fear still lived in their eyes, but so did something else: hope. They saw their world fighting back. They saw giants rising from the oceans, fleets cutting through the stars, leaders standing unbroken. For the first time, humanity stood as one. The Leviathans pushed forward, walking across oceans, firing at ships above. Their weapons carved holes in the Union blockade, forcing enemy fleets to scatter. For a moment, victory seemed close. But then, the Union answered. From deep space, something vast emerged. Larger than any ship humanity had ever seen, the Union's flagship entered orbit. Its body stretched miles across, glowing with endless energy. It was not only a warship, it was a floating city, a fortress built to crush worlds. Its weapons charged, each cannon larger than an entire human cruiser. When it fired, the world shook. One Leviathan was hit directly. The blast cut through its armor like paper, tearing it in half. The great machine fell back into the ocean, waves rising like mountains as it sank. The cheers of humans turned to silence. Fear returned like ice. President Hale's voice cut across every channel. "Do not break. Do not surrender. They want us afraid. Stand your ground." And the Leviathans stood. Even as one fell, the others roared with fire. They turned their cannons on the flagship, unleashing everything they had. The sky became a storm of light, 1,000 beams colliding in the void. For a moment, the flagship trembled. Its shields flickered. Its armor cracked. And humanity saw something they had never imagined before. The Union could bleed too. But the cost was high. Human ships exploded by the dozens. Another Leviathan staggered, flames bursting from its core. Soldiers across the fleet cried out, fighting not only the enemy but despair itself. Still, they fought on. The war had shifted. This was no longer just a battle for Earth. This was a message to the galaxy. Humanity would not kneel. Humanity would not vanish. Humanity would fight until nothing remained. On the Union flagship, the alien generals stared at their failing shields, their voices sharp with disbelief. "This cannot be," one whispered. "They are only human." But Veyer's voice rose again, colder than the void itself. "No, they are not only human. They are something else. Something the galaxy has never faced before." And outside, in the storm of fire and steel, the truth was written across the stars. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the hunter. And the galaxy had only begun to see their claws. The command deck was chaos. Screens flashed with warnings, voices shouted across channels, and the air smelled of smoke and burning wires. Outside the windows, the battlefield was a sea of fire. Ships exploding, weapons blazing, the Leviathans roaring against the Union's endless fleets. President Hale stood at the center of it all. His face was pale, but his eyes burned with steel. Around him, officers rushed to their stations, some wounded, all exhausted. The battle was tearing humanity apart, and yet they still stood. General Brooks slammed his fist against a console. "The flagship is too strong. The Leviathans can't hold it much longer. If it breaks through, Earth will burn." "We cannot allow that," Hale said firmly. His voice cut through the noise. "Every option, every secret, bring them all online." An officer looked up, fear in her eyes. "Sir, that includes the Ark Protocol." The words fell heavy on the deck. Everyone knew the Ark Protocol. It was humanity's last, most dangerous weapon, unfinished, untested, but powerful enough to burn an entire fleet. Using it meant risking everything. Hale did not answer right away. He stared at the battle outside. Another Leviathan staggered under the flagship's fire, smoke pouring from its sides. The ocean below boiled with the force of its fall. Time was running out. "We hold nothing back," Hale said at last. "If we fall with fire." The officers moved quickly, unlocking systems that had never before been touched. Panels slid open, codes were entered, and deep beneath the station, something massive began to stir. Meanwhile, the enemy drew closer. The Union flagship turned, its cannons glowing, preparing to fire on Earth cities. One shot could destroy millions of lives. On the deck, silence fell as everyone watched the screen. The weapon charged, brighter and brighter, until it was like a second sun. But before it fired, a sudden flash streaked across the void. One of the Phantom-class ships, damaged and burning, hurled itself directly into the flagship's cannon. The explosion shook the stars, tearing the weapon apart. The command deck erupted with cheers, but the victory was short. The flagship's shields flared, absorbing most of the damage. The ship remained, scarred but alive, and its other cannons were still ready to fire. Hale gripped the edge of the console. "That sacrifice bought us seconds. We use them." General Brooks looked at him sharply. "Sir, if we activate the Ark Protocol, this station may not survive." Hale turned to him, his voice cold but certain. "Then we die fighting, not crawling." Outside, the Leviathans fired again, their cannons roaring, beams of energy hammering the flagship. The sky lit up like lightning. The flagship's shields flickered once more, but still it endured. Humanity was throwing everything at it, and still it lived. Inside the deck, the floor trembled as the Ark Protocol came online. Screens filled with warnings: unstable power, unknown effects, risk of total collapse. "Target the flagship," Hale ordered. The officers hesitated. One whispered, "If this fails, there will be nothing left." Hale's eyes never wavered. "Then let history remember that humanity did not kneel." The command deck filled with light as the Ark's core awakened. Energy surged through the station, humming so loud it rattled bones. The windows glowed with a pale fire, brighter than the stars outside. Across the Union fleet, alien sensors screamed with alarms. The flagship's generals stared at their screens, disbelief in their voices. "What are they doing? That energy. It is impossible." Veyer stood at the center of the alien deck, his silver skin still cracked, his eyes cold. "It is humanity," he said softly. "They will burn themselves before they bow." On Earth, people looked up at the sky, watching the station glow like a second sun. Civilians clutched each other, whispering prayers, waiting for the unknown. Then the Ark fired. A beam of pure light erupted from the station, so bright it cut across the stars. It struck the Union flagship head-on, smashing through its shields, tearing through its armor. The giant ship shook, its glowing eyes dimming as fire burst from its sides. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The flagship did not fall, not yet. But it staggered. For the first time, it bled openly, its massive form scarred and broken. The humans cheered, but Hale raised his hand. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard him. "It's not enough. Not yet." The Ark had struck, but the price was high. The station trembled, its systems failing, power draining fast. Sparks rained from the ceiling, consoles exploded, and officers screamed as fire spread across the deck. Still, Hale stood unbroken. His voice rose above the chaos. "We hold the line. Until the last breath. Until the last ship. Humanity does not surrender." Outside, the Union flagship roared back to life, its weapons glowing again. The next clash would decide everything: Earth's future, or Earth's ashes. And as the station burned, the humans prepared for the final strike. The station burned. Alarms screamed, smoke poured through the command deck, and sparks rained down like fire. The Ark Protocol had been unleashed, and the cost was tearing the station apart. President Hale stood in the chaos, his face lit by the glow of flames and broken screens. Officers scrambled around him, some shouting, others injured, but all refusing to abandon their posts. The station might die, but no one was running. Outside, the Union flagship staggered in the void. Its massive frame burned with scars, its shields cracked and broken. Whole sections of the ship were on fire, spilling fragments into the dark. The impossible had happened. Humanity had hurt it. General Brooks wiped blood from his forehead, his voice hoarse. We hit them harder than anyone thought possible. But it's still standing. Sir. What now? Hale looked out the window. The flagship's cannons glowed again, charging for another strike. Even damaged, it was a monster too large to kill. He clenched his fists. We buy more time. We fight until the last second. On the battlefield, the Leviathans roared their defiance. 3 remained, battered but alive. They raised their cannons and fired as one, beams of blue light crashing into the flagship. The massive ship shook, but it refused to fall. Instead, it answered with fire. One Leviathan took the blast full force. The machine screamed as it split apart, sinking back into the ocean in flames. 2 remained. Across Earth, people watched in silence, their eyes on the skies. Fear filled them, but pride too. For the first time in history, they were united, standing together against something greater than themselves. On the Union flagship, alien generals argued in panic. Their weapons, their will, no other species has resisted us this way. They should be ashes already, another shouted. But Veyer stood at the center of the deck, silent. His silver skin still cracked, his eyes glowing faintly. At last, he spoke. They are human. They are not like the others. And this war has only begun. Back on the command deck, systems failed one after another. Lights flickered, consoles went dark, and the Ark's core overloaded, fire spilling from the walls. The station could not hold much longer. Sir, an officer cried. We can't stay. The station is collapsing. But Hale shook his head. His voice was steady, even as the floor trembled beneath him. We hold. If we leave now, they win. Humanity must show the galaxy that we do not run. The Union flagship turned, its cannons aiming down toward Earth. This time, no Phantom-class ship was left to block the blast. If it fired, millions would die. Hale's hand tightened on the console. His voice dropped low, almost a whisper. Not while I still breathe. At that moment, something unexpected happened. Across the battlefield, hidden signals awoke. Ships that had been silent rose from the shadow of the moon. Drones launched from secret bases in the asteroid belt. Even damaged Leviathans rebooted old systems, their broken weapons sparking with one last surge of fire. Humanity was not finished. Not yet. The sky exploded with light as this final hidden wave struck. The flagship staggered again, its armor breaking, its shields collapsing in shards of fire. The massive ship groaned like a dying beast. And then, it stopped. The weapons went dark. The engines flickered. For a moment, the battlefield was silent. Had humanity destroyed it? But then, across every human channel, a voice echoed. Cold. Ancient. Veyer's voice. You are stronger than we believed. Stronger than we allowed ourselves to see. But this is not your victory. This is only the beginning. The Union will return, with fleets beyond your imagination. And when we do, you will learn despair. The flagship pulled back, engines roaring. Alien fleets turned with it, retreating into the void. The humans did not fire. They had nothing left to give. Their weapons were drained, their ships broken, their Leviathans bleeding fire. They could only watch as the enemy left. The battle was over. But not the war. On the command deck, Silence fell. Smoke curled upward, and the surviving officers stared at Hale, waiting for his word. At last, he spoke. His voice was heavy but unbroken. They thought we were prey. Now they know we are hunters. The galaxy will never forget this day. Brooks looked at him, exhausted, his voice a whisper. But what if they return with more? Hale's eyes turned back to the stars, where the Union had vanished into the dark. Then we fight again. Because that is what it means to be human. We endure. We rise. And we never surrender. The words carried across the burning station, across the battered fleet, across Earth itself. Humanity was broken, bleeding, but alive. And now, the galaxy knew their secret. The war was not over. It had only begun.